Welcome to this week's episode of the BDC. I'm Amanda. I'm so grateful you're here, and I want to dive in because we are less than 40-ish days left in 2022. And what this was taking me back to was the beginning of business for me. I remember it was like a year or two into business, and the end of the year was coming, and I was starting to see all these people start talking about rock your goals for the next year, and it's the last quarter, go strong. And at that moment for me, all I was thinking was like, I'm in survival mode. I don't really know what I'm doing next month, let alone next year. And then fast forward a few years later, I remember coming to the end of the year and feeling just like, it's so great to be in this place where I have clarity, I have continuity, I have consistency, and I understand the regular rhythm that exists inside business. And so the end of the year felt less dreadful, and the beginning of the year felt more welcoming because it was a sense of understanding of the flow, and to not be so worked up about just because we have this deadline at the end of the year doesn't mean much changes on January 1. With all that being said, I do think there are some things that I can offer you that will help you prepare for the next year. And these aren't things that are just time sensitive to next year. I think these are things that no matter when you might be listening to this episode are relevant for you inside of your business. One thing though, before we get into the actual content, is one of the most impactful things I began to do in my business was implement a planning strategy in order to map out my entire year in a loose structure that gave me some sort of semblance around our marketing calendar. And I know this is a pain point for so many of you. And so I decided that I'm going to host this session for you for all of the to really get rid of a lot of the overwhelm that comes with creating a marketing plan that feels really good for you, that weaves in your life and weaves in your vacations and the time away that you really desire. And so I'm hosting this workshop on December 6th. You can head on over to amanda-walker.com/plan 2023, and those are the numbers. So it's PLAN 2023. This workshop is a 90-minute intensive where I'm going to help you prepare and walk away with a plan for 2023. I'm going to help you get clear on your goals and create 90-day kind of checkpoints on how to map this out. I'm going to teach you how to weave in your kids' calendar, the vacations you want to plan, but most of all, you're going to leave with a feeling of peace and confidence knowing you have a plan in place. The workshop is $7, which if you boil it down to how much you're going to pay per day of 2023 to have this crystal clear plan, it ends up being less than 2 cents, by the way. So it's absolutely worth your time. And you might be thinking, why $7? That doesn't seem like a lot of money. It's not necessarily about the money. Here's what it's about. I want people on this call that really are invested in themselves. And I don't want this to be a thing you buy into and don't show up for. I want you to have some skin in the game because I want people on this call that want to go higher, further, grow, and really have an amazing 2023. So if you're that person, I would love for you to join us. You can bring all the pretty pens. I'm going to talk more about the workshop a little bit later, but again, it's just, you can save your spot at amanda-walker.com/plan 2023. So let's get into the juice now of what we're actually looking at. Now, I mentioned that I've myself went from this place of like feeling overwhelmed, didn't even know, like my head was barely above water, to then being really confident and clear. So you might be feeling lots of different pulls. You might be just in this total, like, I'm going to hit my revenue goals for the end of 2022. You're in this go mode. You might be feeling peace and calm. You've hit those goals. You're excited for the next year. You might be somewhere in between. So what I have to offer is going to land for everyone, no matter where you're at, energy-wise, revenue-wise, if you exceeded, if you fell short, none of that matters because we're all going into 2023, no matter what 2022 looked like. So if you're ready to say like, peace, I'm out the door, or you're just kind of like, this was a really great year for me, there's something in this episode for everyone. So let's talk about the 5 things you can do right now to prepare for 2023. And I am working under one big assumption in this episode, and that is that you desire to maximize your profits. So this means that one of your goals, I'm assuming, in this episode is to make money, and not specifically just revenue, but profit, right? And what's the difference again? Revenue is what you actually bring in before we take away expenses. And that doesn't matter to me. Numbers are tossed around in the online space, which irritates me to no end. I hit a 7-figure launch, I hit 6 figures. What I really care about is profit. The money after all the expenses are taken out that you're taking home, that you bring into your family to go do the things and live the life that you desire. If you're making $1 million, but it's taking you 850,000 to get there, I don't know. That may not be a really great fit for me personally, because I might rather have less risk and bring in great, a smaller amount of revenue and still hit 150. If I can bring in 300K and make 200, that sounds really amazing to me. And so I'm operating under that assumption, because much of what I'm going to talk about are tweaks and adjustments to maximize profit. And I'm going to really invite you to set some time aside to make these things happen. So tip number 1 is clear out unnecessary subscriptions and payments that are happening inside of your account. I think this is a great time of year to spend an hour auditing all the expenses that are coming out, looking for things like software subscriptions, like a project management tool, maybe an EMS, a CRM, any of those things that you're buying into that you're not fully utilizing. If you're spending $50 for something you're using once a month, I bet you there's a way to do it for nothing, or to do it inside of an existing software that you've already been using. Or if you are a part of communities that you're not really tapping into, whatever the case is, it's a great time to really ask yourself, is this benefiting me, and do I want to continue to have this monthly expense? You can also look at some of these that you do want to keep. For instance, our project management software we use is Monday.com, and there's a significant difference in the monthly payment versus the yearly payment. And in fact, it's almost like a 35% savings, right? Just like think of our business owners, there's security in knowing that we have a member for a year instead of month to month. And so there might be opportunities for you to actually shift into a longer term payment, like a year payment, that could also impact your profit, right? Because 35% is 35%. So if something costs you $1,500 and it's only going to cost you $1,100 or $1,200, then those those amounts add up. Especially if you happen to be a beginner and the profit is growing, you're in a growing phase of getting more consistent income, those do matter. We did this recently in our business back in Q3, and I actually found like $400 worth of stuff that really just wasn't landing for us. And that to me means another team member, or $400 more that I can put back into the business, or can grow wealth and invest it somewhere. Tip number 2, this is a great time to begin the process of reconciling your taxes and organizing your taxes in some capacity. Now, I'm talking about this at the end of the year. However, this is something you should be doing all year. But the one thing that's important to think about the end of the year is, depending on if you're an S Corp or you're an LLC, and if those gibberish things are not familiar to you, it's just simply how you are filing taxes and inside of your unique monetary and financial situation. But there are some deadlines that are really important for you to have your taxes reconciled by the end of the year. So if you need to make financial contributions or need to put money into places or invest money into places to help you maximize your tax benefits, then you want to have that done before the end of the year, because sometimes that timeline, there isn't a lot of grace there. I really feel like this is a great place in your business to delegate. I do not know tax law, and I don't want to know tax law. So this is why I have a tax strategist, not just a tax person, a CPA, but a tax strategist to help me maximize what my business does, my husband's business, so that we're all on the same page as far as how can we, make contributions and be mindful throughout the year so that we're organized, we're keeping our tax software up to date, and we're maximizing any opportunities to reduce taxable income. So I think this is a year-long discussion, but I think it's a great time. And if you're not sure where to start, here's a couple of tips that I would give. I really encourage people, as they're beginning to get in the habit of just putting 20 to 25% away for taxes in a separate account, so you know that it's there when it comes to tax filing time. Then you don't have any surprises. I've talked to so many people that their coach, mentors did not give them that idea because they're not thinking holistically about the coach, the person, right? And so they got there and they owed, a decent amount of taxes that they weren't prepared to contribute. So just get in the habit of doing that. And you can, of course, I am not a professional at this. I'm just giving you some tips. A great resource is the Profit First book by Mike. I always mess up his name. Makowski. I'll figure it out. I'll put it in the show notes. I just know the name. And it's a fantastic book that breaks down how to make sure you're paying yourself first and also putting money into the proper places to both take care of taxes, expenses, but also build the dream that you're doing this for to begin with. Tip number 3. Now we get into like the business stuff. And I think that it's a really great time of year to begin and take some time to reflect. And some of those questions that I would offer you to reflect on are, what went really well for you this year? What didn't go so well? What really felt exciting? Like, what things did you do in your business that really lit you up? Was there a specific program? Was there some specific clients? Was there a specific free value that you offered? What inside your business just really excited you? Because there's so much to be said for excitement. When we really love someone, and we have excitement around it, we show up differently. That's why I love hosting challenges. I just get really excited about them. That's why I love doing workshops. I like to teach live. I believe about myself that I deliver content better when I'm talking instead of writing. And when I get to teach and have interact and have feedback, for me, that's where I feel my best. And so I want to create more opportunities, knowing that inside my business for things that feel really great. One thing that I do at the end of the year is I print a report from my EMS or your CRM, wherever you're taking money and systems, and really look at, where did my revenue come from? Which programs, which offer specifically really is, if you have multiple offers, by the way, you might just have one signature offer for coaching. But I look at that and I really ask myself, what is it that was effective for us? I pull the emotion out of it after I've really felt like what things are really awesome and feeling, and I focus on feeling. And then I say, what's the data here? What does that back it up? Honestly, I usually find that it does, but that's not always true. But now it's like looking more at the numbers, what things went really well. I like to look at where our email opt-ins came from. I like to look at what offers flopped, what things that we tried that weren't good. And this is the overall question, is like, what's really working? And that just helps me gather data before I go into like a planning phase of what's next in my business. Once I have that data, tip 4 is begin to set some of those more macro goals. So thinking about maybe, how many people do you want to serve? How much, gross revenue and then profit are you wanting to bring in? I found that I like to set like the revenue goals in conjunction with the number of people I want to impact. For me, if I know myself, and if I get caught up in the monetary piece, there's a lot that goes on there for me. So I try to like really see that as humans and impact. And that works for me as well. Are you wanting to bring in, a challenge where you host a challenge that brings in 200 leads? So you're starting to really think about what kind of things matter to me. What kind of goals do you want to set? And I'm not going to use this conversation to talk about goal setting. You can go back to previous episodes. I released one last year about goal setting. There's a million ways to set goals. Why do we want to set goals? It's because we want to create focus and we want to create energy towards a common mission. When we have a common mission, then when stuff hits the fan and when emotions rear up, then we can just ask ourselves, when we're trying to make decisions, we can just ask ourselves, does that support my number one goal, which for many of us is to increase profit? If it directly increases profit, then it can be a yes. If it's extraneous, then it may not matter. And that's the point of setting goals, is it gives us focus. And second to that, it gives us belief, right? It gives us an opportunity to stay future focused, towards motivated, if you will, on what we want to create. It allows us, if we want to go into coaching, why do we want to set goals with our clients? Is it allows them to create an internal representation, an internal picture of what they want to experience. And the more we tap into that picture and have clarity around what that would look like if we had it, then the more we envision that, and we are consistently unconsciously moving towards it. So there is relevance beyond just having the numbers, right? And having and knowing and being strict and stringent with it. I don't think that serves us, but having a vague idea of what it is that you desire is important so that you stay focused on it ahead. So once you know what works and you kind of have a vision of what it is that you want, now step 5 is we begin to map it out, which again, this is exactly what we're going to be doing on my free workshop on December the 6th. So again, you can head on over to amanda-walker.com and amanda-walker.com/plan 2023. That's the link to save your spot. So if you would imagine in this workshop, I'm actually going to be sending you, once you sign up, some templates that you're going to use to help cultivate each month. We're literally going to reverse engineer the year. So if you have a revenue goal, the question is, what are we going to be doing to help you accomplish this task? Here's where I think a lot of people fall short. They plan the goal and then they don't map out the how, the action steps. So they're like, I want to make 6 figures. And the question is, well, how are you going to make 6 figures? Right? Those clients aren't coming to you from thin air. So how are we going to create consistent momentum forward? What projects are we going to work on in what quarter? What kind of client attraction are you going to put in place for each month or each quarter that's going to attract those desired clients your way? I think where so many coaches and entrepreneurs fall short is they just think they have a business and the clients come, and they're not out there creating value opportunities for people to opt in to come closer to them. And so they feel discouraged and frustrated, and they say, this isn't working. This isn't working. And the reality is it takes consistency, and it takes making sure that your specific business ecosystem is satisfied at all levels, which is something I'll be teaching inside of the workshop as well. So come join me on the 6th. It's definitely worth your time. Way more value than just $7. So again, amanda-walker.com/plan 2023 to sign up. But on that vein, step number 5 is mapping out your calendar. So you can do this by ordering a paper calendar and literally taping it to your walls and just starting to think about what each month is going to look like and what dates are going to pop in for you, what kind of strategy you want to use in each month. You could do this digitally as well. But it's really thinking about, if I want to make 100K, let's just use round numbers, for instance. If I want to make 100K and my signature offer, I'm just going to use easy numbers, is 2,000. So if my offer is 2,000 and I want to make 100K, right? If we do that math, then we know that it's going to take 50 clients at that number throughout the year. So how are we going to get those 50 clients? What are you going to do to attract those clients and offer value so that they're like, okay, she is the expert I am looking for. And this is where a lot of clients fall short and they feel frustrated. And I don't want you to be that person. I want you to have a clear, cohesive plan for 2023 that has you excited, that has it fully streamlined and lined up with your people and your family. And this is, I think, brings so much clarity and intention to your year from the beginning before it starts, so you don't get caught up in the distraction of the new year and you're like, hey, let's keep this train rolling ahead. So I hope that these one of or all of these tips landed for you as far as what to do to begin preparing for 2023. And no matter when you're listening to this applies to every year, and it applies towards the consistency that is necessary for us to keep showing up in our business and be profitable as well. So if this episode is exciting for you, it feels like great reminders, I would appreciate if you share it with a friend that would also have some great takeaways from it. And leave us a review. Let us know what you think. Send me a message on social media or email us and let us know that this was a really valuable episode for you. And most of all, I'm excited to end 2022 with you and kick off 2023 together as we have some amazing guests and content continuing to be here with you every single week. So enjoy and have a wonderful week.